H.M.P Preston. The wing I'm pointing at the moment, and reason why I've come round this way first, the main gates are just down round that corner there, and this here, as I've said, is 5 landings high. This is A-wing. All the landings from 1s up to the 5s are all painted with Portafleck, sprayed. I sprayed them. I've actually sprayed them twice. I've sprayed most of this prison. It's the only prison in the country, I believe, with actually 5 landings high. There was a riot here, 1987, and this is where also the wife, or I should say ex-wife, divorced me. I can't blame her. I would always sing a night at Nick. But this is where I last saw her, and then it wasn't long after that the riot were on. Now then, 1987, the whole prison, except the ones that were on works department, all exercised on the same yard. So over that way, I'm having to stand under here because it rained. Over that way, over the wall, maybe just a little bit far around corner, was the old parade ground. Massive parade ground. The whole prison exercised on there at the same time. This is how they managed to kick off. Just over the wall from where I'm pointing now is B-wing. Going to my left. You can't see that because, as I've said, the one you can see is A-wing, and that's 5 landings high. Everybody on works department got banged up early, me included. I was on the paint, as I've just said. I was sprayer. I worked under an officer called Mr. Brown. He's probably dead now, because we painted the cellars as well, where all the pipes and all the tanks and everything for water that flows around prison is heated and pumped round. And as you'll know, all them tanks and pipes are lagged with asbestos. We had to sweep them out and paint them without a mask. We didn't even get offered a mask. We should have, because of asbestos. On day at riot, we got banged up early, and as the lads were coming in from exercise, the atmosphere was electric. So we got up to the windows to watch. As the lads were coming in off exercise, you had to pass some lower roofs, which was laundry and things like that. So the bigger lads stood with the backs to the wall and locked their hands together, and other lads stepped into it and they literally launched them up over the razor wire. They threw loads over at razor wire. They climbed off that roof up onto the gymnasium roof and started to rip it off, throwing it at screws and everything. You couldn't be seen from outside because it was a lower roof, as I've said, and it was farther back into prison. So it was a bad roof for them to get on, really. We were all up at the windows shouting and everything. as the rest of them came into the prison, they carried on with the riot and started attacking the screws. All screws backed off and back down towards the centre and back into administration, which would have been at front of that lower building roof there, where they could get back right out the prison, round main gates round that way. We then got, well, they then got Screw's keys and started unlocking all the lads that were locked up still. We all come out and joined in the riot. I went round onto B wing where the rest of the lads were coming in, and the vicar standing on the stairs coming down from the 3s to the 2s onto B2 stood there and started holding his hands up, shouting, "Calm down boys, calm down. It's all your own stuff you're smashing up." We took no notice. In fact, somebody grabbed hold of the vicar, dragged him down, and he had to run a gauntlet back up to the centre, where they were promptly kicked. Screws, as I've said, backed off, didn't know what to do. We blocked all outer doors up, and on the centre is where all the lifers who were coming into this prison to finish off, because it has an hostel to the right as you go in the gatehouse, where they used to go in. They'd come from other prisons, or even this one, and move into the hostel. Then were let out into Preston to go and find a job. They got a job. If they got a job, they went to work every day. The wages were paid directly to the property in prison. They were given a minimal allowance for the bits and bobs they'd need through the day while they were at work. And that's where they stayed until they were ready to move into society. When they came to this prison from other prisons, loads of them would have caged birds, budgies, canaries. So they took them off them then, because this is category C prison and they weren't allowed here. So all their birds were kept and caged on the centre. Then there was a convict who was given the title of Budgie Red Band Trustee, and he looked after the birds, fed them, cleaned them out, all that sort of thing. Looked after them. During riots, all them budgies were killed. We then raided canteen and records office, where we started looking through the nonces records. We then proceeded to get these nonces and throw them off the landings, whereas they run off and escaped down centre with rested screws, scumbags, to try and get out. After a while, the chief officer, I believe it was at the time, came flying in to the centre with a fire hose. He then started blasting all inmates, knocking them into cells that were already open, and other screws banged them up. They then proceeded to Shanghai them prisoners that they already got out to other prisons all over the country. As I've said, all the lads were still on the roof. All the screws were going round shouting, "Come on down, boys, the price is right." I then looked up, because by now I'd been blasted by screws into a cell up on 4s. I then looked out the window at the lads on the roof, and we all were shouting up at them, jeering them on and everything, which actually is incite to riot. If I were to start shouting at inmates now from here, that's incite to riot. I can't do that. I don't want to get arrested. Up to now, I'm not committing any offences. Where was I? Oh yes, the lad's still on the roof. I noticed right at the end of the roof, by the gable end, was the works red band. A red band was a trustee, and he was supposed to be getting discharged the next morning. So I started shouting up at him, "Works green band, what are you doing up there on the roof with the lads, boy? You're supposed to be going out in the morning." So he won't have been very happy. He'll have had his sentence extended. Most of them got the sentences which they knew had actually done damage, which whose screws could identify. Got time added on. They actually got a sentence on top of the sentence, concurrent, which meant you actually served the time. Consecutive means it runs with the offence. Screws kept shouting at him, and I were up on the 4s, banged up in a cell, as I've said. I don't know whose cell it was. Screws just barges into it and locked us in. Next thing, there was a lad at the bars on the outside. The other lads had tied sheets and things together, tied it round his waist and hung him off the roof down to the 4th windows that they could reach. He then said, "Have you got out for lads on the roof? Anything? Smokes, water, any food?" And they swung him from cell to cell. That's the only time ever, after serving 17 years behind the door myself, I've seen an inmate swung on a line. They swing everything else on lines, but never an inmate. I think rain's stopping a bit now, so I'm going to walk round to main gatehouse, see if I can see any screws. The lads stayed on the roof all night and eventually came down with promise of no brutality. But as soon as they got them off the roof, they gave them a good kicking, like everybody knows. Nobody could prove it, but that's what happened. That's part of prison life. Battered off screws. We all got, well, they all got shanghaied. All us that were still banged up, most of the screws thought we hadn't actually been in riot. We were just out and got banged up before it kicked off. That's what they actually thought. Or that's what they wanted to think. No smoke, mate. I've lost where I was now. They got promptly shanghaied, and the rest of us stayed in, especially us on works department, and had to help clean damage up. I finished my sentence here towards end of 87, and as I've said, I walked in this prison married, I walked out divorced. I came in with a home, I went out to nothing. I don't blame her for any of it. If it had been her locked up, I might have left her as well. But like I say, this is where I was divorced. I met her in Ramby while I was serving in Ramby. Married her from Armley prison in 82, and she divorced me here in Preston 87. Right, there's no point me having this too high at the minute, and it looks like rain's stopping, so I'm going to go down to main gatehouse and see if I can collar a few screws and carry on from down there. It's only just round that corner there, so I can't pause it because I'm filming this off my phone. It's alright to film on here because I'm in a public space anyway. Excuse me, mate, are you the local? No? No? Oh, sound then, mate. Bye. I was going to ask him if you remembered riots, but he was from Bulgaria. I should have got him to big up Live Free at least, but I haven't wrote anything down. Everything I'm saying, I'm ad-libbing from memory. Just got to get over this road so I can get a better view here at Nick, I think. Yeah, I believe the building behind the white part, this white part here, is main gatehouse. The low roof behind it, the flat roof, I think